Hello dear students, welcome to all. Today we are going to start chapter 5, that is Introduction to Euclid's Geometry. And students, this is the first lecture of this chapter, and in this lecture we discuss about history of Euclid's and geometry in India, and we discuss about some basic geometrical concepts. So without wasting time, let's start today's lecture. Students, before starting, let's introduce the word geometry. And the word geometry comes from the Greek words. The word geometry comes from two Greek words. The first is geo, and the meaning of geo is earth. The meaning of geo is what? It is earth. And the second word is metrion, and the meaning of this word is measure. That means geometry is what? Measuring the earth. So we can say that geometry appears to have originated from the need for measuring land. Clear? Now, this branch of mathematics was studied in various forms in every ancient civilization, be it in Egypt, Babylonia, China, India, Greece, and Ancas, etc. Clear? The pupils of this civilization faced several practical problems which requires to develop of geometry in various ways. So we know that necessity is the mother of invention. So at that time they required to measure land, and they developed some concept of geometry. So after this, let's discuss one basic example. For example, whenever the river Nile overflowed, Nile is a river which flowed in Egypt. So this is the example of Egypt society. For example, whenever the river Nile overflowed, it wiped out the boundaries between adjoining fields. Okay, it wiped out the boundaries between adjoining fields of different landowners. This was very critical condition. After such flooding, these boundaries had to be redrawn. After such flooding, these boundaries need to be redrawn. For this purpose, the Egyptian developed a number of geometrical techniques. And rules for calculating simple areas, and also for doing simple construction. So Egyptian developed some geometrical concept to calculating the area of land or some constructions. The knowledge of geometry was also used for them for computing the volume of grannies and for construction canals and pyramids. They also knew the correct formula to find the volume of truncated pyramids. And students, you all know that what is the pyramid? Pyramid is what? Pyramid is a solid figure, the base of which is triangle or square or some other polygon. Base of the pyramid is what? Base of the pyramid is one of any polygon, and the faces of pyramid is triangle only. Base is any polygon and the faces should be triangle. Now, and its sides faces are triangle converging to a point at the top. Means this is the example of truncated pyramid. It is truncated pyramid, it is not a whole pyramid. If we talk about the whole pyramid, these all faces are meet at the top point. Okay, and this is the figure of truncated pyramid. So at the Egyptian civilization, they know the formula of truncated pyramid. Let's talk about Indian society. In the Indian subcontinent, the excavation at Harappa and Mohenjo-daro was very famous civilization of India. This civilization was first well arranged society. Okay, so let's talk about it. The excavation at Harappa and Mohenjo-daro shows that the Indus Valley civilization about 3000 BC made extensive use of geometry. At that time, they used extensive use of geometry. It was highly organized society. As I say that Mohenjo-daro and Harappa was the well-arranged society of India, first well-arranged society of India. So it was highly organized society. The society were highly developed and very well planned. For example, the roads were parallel to each other and there was an underground drainage system. There was a underground drainage system at that time. The house had many rooms of different types. This shows that the town dwellers were skilled in the mensuration and practical arithmetics. These all examples shows that at that time citizens have a knowledge of mensuration, okay, or we can say that they have a knowledge of some basic geometrical concepts. So that at that time the bricks used for construction were kiln fired and the ratio between length, breadth and thickness is 4:2:1. This is the some images of Indus Valley civilization, and in this picture we see that there are some parallel roads and very beautiful construction of houses. So this picture shows that at that time they have a knowledge of some geometrical concepts. Now after this Indus Valley civilization, let's talk about the ancient Indian time. So at the ancient Indian time, in the ancient Indian time, there is a book, and the name of this book is what? The Salab Sutra. The Salab Sutra, and this book is at the time of 800 BCE to 500 BCE, and were the manual of geometrical construction. This is the manual of some geometrical constructions. Okay. Now the geometry of the Vedic period originated with the construction of altars, and we can say that Vedis. Okay. Now, and the fireplaces for performing Vedic rites. Vedic rites means you hear about the yagna. Okay. Now the location of the sacred fires had to be in accordance to the clearly laid down instructions about their shapes and areas. So we can conclude that at the ancient Indian time era, they have a knowledge of shapes, or they have a knowledge of some basic geometry. Now, if they were to be effective instrument, square and circular altars were used for household rituals. Square and circular altars used for household rituals, while altars whose shapes were combination of rectangle, triangle and trapezium were required for public worship. Okay, that means the altars which in shape of combination of rectangles, triangles, trapezium were required for public worship. Now the next is the Sri Yantra. The Sri Yantra, and Sri Yantra given in the Atharvaveda. The word Sri Yantra is introduced in the Atharvaveda. It is what? It is consistent of 9 interwoven isosceles triangle. These triangles are arranged in such a way that they produce 43 subsidiary triangles. Okay, so let's see this is the Sri Yantra, and in this Sri Yantra we have a 9 interlinked isosceles triangle and they create 45 subsidiary of triangles. So this is the diagram of Sri Yantra. Okay, and we study Sri Yantra in Atharvaveda. So after this, so accurate geometry methods were used for the construction of these altars or Sri Yantra. The principle behind them were not discussed. In ancient India, they have a knowledge of circle, trapezium, triangle, rectangle and other geometrical shapes, and they used to design altars or Vedis the shape of rectangle, triangle and trapezium. but they doesn't have a principle behind them. Okay, but the principle behind them were not discussed. So by seeing this whole example, we can say that at that time they have a knowledge of geometry. So after this, this example shows that geometry was being developed and applied everywhere in the world. These examples shows that, which examples? We talk about the example of Egyptian civilization, then we discuss example of Indus Valley civilization, then we discuss about ancient Indian civilization. So all these examples shows that geometry was being developed and applied everywhere in the world. Okay, but what is the problem? But this was happening in a unsystematic manner. But all this was happening in the unsystematic manner. But what is the interesting fact about this? Development of geometry in the ancient world, development of the geometry in the ancient world is that they were passed on the form one generation to the next generation, either orally through palm leaf message or by other ways. Okay, this is very interesting fact. They transfer the knowledge of geometry by one generation to other generation by either orally or by writing the message on palm leaf paper or other sources. So after this, also we find that some civilization like Babylonia, geometry remained a very practical oriented discipline, as was the case in Indian and Rome civilization. At that time they used geometry for very practical purpose only. Okay, now the geometry developed by Egyptian mainly consist of the statement of results. The geometry developed by Egyptian mainly consists of some basic results. Now, there were no generated rules for this procedure. In the Egyptian society, they consist statement of results for geometry, but they were no generated the procedure for that results. Okay, now in fact in Babylonia and Egyptian used geometry mostly for practical purpose and did very little to develop it as systematic science. Okay, they did very little to develop it as a science. Now, but in civilization like Greece, the emphasis was on the reasoning behind why certain construction were. In the civilization like Greece, they emphasize on the principle behind this geometrical concept, why this construction work. Okay, so now the Greek were interested in establishing the truth of the statements they discovered using deductive reasoning. So the Greece is the first civilization which emphasized to develop geometry as a science. So let's start. In next slide we discuss about two very famous mathematicians, that is Thales and Pythagoras. Okay, a Greek mathematician, Thales. Thales is a very famous mathematician, and he is Greek mathematician, is credited with giving the first known proof. Thales is a person who gives the first proof related to geometry. This proof was of the statement that a circle is bisected, or that is cut into two equal parts by its diameter. Student, this is, if we talk about at that time, this is very simple statement that circle is bisected by its diameter. Okay, but at that time this is very tough to say. So at first time the Thales give the proof of this statement that circle is bisected by its diameter. Clear? One of Thales the most famous pupils was Pythagoras. The one of Thales most famous pupil was Pythagoras, and we all know about the Pythagoras. Pythagoras is a very important person of geometry, because without the Pythagoras theorem our geometry is incomplete. Almost in all the problems of geometry we use Pythagoras theorem. So let's talk about the Pythagoras here. Pythagoras is at the time of 572 BCE, whom you have heard about. Pythagoras and his group discovered many geometric properties and developed the theory of geometry to a great extent. This process continued till 300 BCE. At that time, Euclid, a teacher of mathematics. Euclid was a teacher of mathematics at Alexandria in Egypt. Alexandria is a place in the Egypt, and Euclid was the mathematics teacher of Alexandria. Collected all the known work and arranged it in his famous treatise and called it as Elements. Okay, this person is Thales and this person is Pythagoras. So after the Thales and Pythagoras, let's talk about the Euclid. Now, although Euclid is a very famous person, and mathematician, we have a very little known about his life. It is believed that he was a student of Plato. Again, Plato is a very famous mathematician and he gives some theorems to geometry. Okay. Now, Euclid was born around 365 BC in Alexandria, Egypt, and lived until about 300 BC. Okay. So now this is the introduction to Euclid's. Now, he divided the elements into 13 chapters. What are the elements? We discussed in previous slide that he collected all the known work and arranged it in his famous treatise, or we can say essay, called it Elements. Okay, and he divided the elements into 13 chapters and each collected a book. Okay, now these books influence the whole world's understanding of geometry for generation to come. This is very important book to introduce geometry to our world. Okay, now in this chapter we shall discuss Euclid's approach to geometry and try to link it with the present day geometry. Clear? So now let's start discuss about some Euclid's definition. The Euclid's definition. The Greek mathematician of Euclid's time thought of geometry as an abstract model in which they lived. Okay. Now, the notation of point, line, plane, or we can say plane as a surface, and so on were derived from what was seen around them. The notation of point, line, surface derived from what they was seen around the world. Okay, so from studies of the space and solids in the space around them, an abstract geometrical notation of solid object was developed. Clear? Now, a solid has a shape, size, position. Solid has shape, size and position and can be moved from one place to another place. Solid can be moved one place to another place. Its boundaries are called surface. Solid has a boundaries and the boundaries of solid is known as surface. Clear? Now, they separated one part of the space from another. The solid separate the one part of the space from another and are said to have no thickness, and are said to have no thickness. That means space have no thickness, surface have no thickness. The boundaries of the surfaces are curved or straight lines. The boundaries of surfaces are curved or straight line. and these lines are end in the point, and these lines are end in the point. Clear? So now let's discuss some example of solid. This is a solid. We can move it from here to here, and this solid consists, this is a surface. If we remove this surface, this is looks like this. This is this surface. Okay, and this surface has no thickness. This surface has no thickness, and the surface ends in a line. The surface ends in a line. As we discussed that surface, as we discussed that the boundary of the surfaces are curved or a straight line. Sometime it is a curve or sometime it is a line. So these are, there we have a lines at the end of surface, and if we draw the line, this is the line, and line ends in points. Okay, so this is the solid. It has thickness, length and breadth, and it can be moved one place to another place. And this is the surface, and surface ends with the lines, and this is the line, and line ends with the points. Clear? So now after this example, let's move to the next slide. Consider the three steps from solids. As we discussed in example, consider the three steps from solids to point: solid, then surface, then lines, then points. Okay, first of all we have a solid, then in the solid we have surfaces, and in the surfaces we have line, and in the line we have points. Clear? In each step we lose one extension. In each step we lose one extension, also called dimension. Okay, now in example we see that in last example we said this is the solid, and it has length, breadth and height. So this is the three-dimensional, and this is only length and breadth, so this is two-dimensional, and this line has only length, so it is one-dimensional. So if we move to this direction, we lose one extension, or we can say one dimension. Clear? So after this, so as a solid has three dimension, a surface has two dimension, line has one, and a point has none. Point has no direction. It has no length, no breadth. Now Euclid summarized these statements as a definition. Euclid summarized these points as a definition. So he began his exposition by listing 23 definition in his book. Okay, he listed 23 definition in his book 1 of elements. A few of them are given below. Few definition we discuss here. The first is, a point is that which has no part. Point is what? Point is that which has no part. For example, this is the point. It has no part, it has no length, it has no breadth. So after the point, a line is breadthless length. Line is what? Line is breadthless length. This is a line. This is breadthless length. This is breadthless length, and here the end of the line is what? It is point. Clear? Now the next is, the end of the line are points. End of the line are point. Clear? Now a straight line is a line which lies evenly with the points on itself. Straight line is what? Straight lines which lies evenly with the point on itself. If we draw a line here, this is a line, and on this line we have many points. On this line we have many points. So we can say that A straight line is a line which lies evenly with the points on itself. Clear? Now, a surface is that which has length and breadth only. Surface is what? Surface is that which has length and breadth only. So let's do the diagram for surface. This is the surface. It has length and breadth. Clear? Now, after the surface, next is the edges of the surface are line. The edges of the surface, this is the edge. This is the edge. And the edges of surface are lines. And the plane surface is surface which lies evenly with the straight line on itself. Means on this surface we have many lines. So we can say that a plane surface is a surface which lies evenly with the straight line on itself. Clear? I hope you understand some definition which was given by the Euclids. So next is some undefined terms. Among this we have some undefined terms, and what is the meaning of undefined term? Let's discuss. If you carefully study this definition, which definition? Definition which was given by Euclids. You find that some of the terms like part, breadth, length, evenly, etc. need to be further explained. Need to be further explained clearly. So, for example, consider this definition of point. Definition of point. And what is the definition of point according to Euclid? In this definition, a part is what? A point is what? A point is a part. According to Euclid's, point is what? Point is a part. And a part needs to be defined itself. What is the part? If we say point is a part, then the next thing comes in our mind is that what is the part? So part is need to be defined itself. Then suppose if you define a part to be that which occupies some area, then now you have to define what is the area. So then you again need to what is the area. So to define one thing you need define many other things. So here to define one thing you need to define many other things, and you may get a long chain of definitions without an end. Okay, you will get a long chain without no end. So for such reasons mathematicians agree to leave some geometrical terms undefined. For that reason mathematicians leave some terms as undefined terms. Clear? However, we do have an intuitive feelings for the geometric concept of a point than what the definition above gives us. Okay, so we represent a point as a dot even though a dot has some dimension. Okay, so now a similar problem arises in definition of plane and line. Okay, similar problem arise in the definition of plane and lines also, since it refers to breadth and length, neither of which has been defined. Okay, neither of the length and breadth is defined. So because of this few terms are kept undefined while developing any course of studies. Okay, few concepts are undefined. So in a geometry we take a point, a line and a plane. A point, a line, a plane. In Euclid's words, a plane surface. Okay, plane is what? Plane surface as undefined terms. So sometime in the examination this is directly asked that which things are undefined in the geometry. Then your answer is a point, a line and a surface. These three things are undefined in geometry. Clear? So now after this, the only thing is that we can represent them or explain them with the help of physical method. With the help of physical method, we can, however, have a good idea of this concept by considering examples given below. Okay, so some examples are: a point is what? A point is represented by a fine dot. A point is represented by a fine dot made by a sharp pencil on a sheet of paper. A point is denoted by capital letters A, B, P, Q and anything. So point is what? Point is this. Point is a fine dot, fine dot by sharp pencil. Here we draw a point on this surface by this stylus, and we can represent a point on a surface by capital letters such as A, B and etc. Now after the point, the next is plane. What is the plane? The surface of a smooth wall, the surface of a smooth wall or the surface of a sheet of paper. Surface of smooth wall, you all see the walls in your room. This is the example of plane. Or you can say that sheet of paper is also example of a plane. Or the surface of smooth blackboard. Surface of smooth blackboard, or we can say the surface of digital board is example of a plane, or close example of plane. Clear? So after this example of plane, let's move to the next, and the next is line. What is the line? So let's discuss about line with some basic examples. Students, if we fold a piece of paper, if we fold the piece of paper, and paper is what? Paper is a surface, or we can say that paper is a plane. The crease in the paper represent a geometrical straight line. The crease of paper, when you fold the paper, then you will get a crease between two folds, and this crease is the example of geometrical representation of line. Clear? The edge of ruler, the edge of ruler, the edge of the top of the table, the meeting place of two walls, the meeting place of two walls. You see that if we join two walls, then the meeting point between these two walls is the example of straight line. So these are the close example of geometrical straight lines. Students, sometime in the examination it is directly asked that what is the meeting place of two planes? What is the meeting place of two planes? Then your answer is straight line. Clear? So after this definition or examples, let's move to the next. Next is Euclid's assumed certain properties which were not to be proved. Euclid's assumed some properties and which were not to be proved. These assumptions are actually obvious universal truth. These assumptions was actually universal truths. He divided them into two types. One is axiom and other is postulate. So what is the axiom and what is the postulate, we will discuss after few seconds. So the first is postulate. What is the postulates? So postulates is what? The basic facts which are taken for granted. The basic facts which are taken for granted. Okay, this we can say that this is a universal truth without proof and which are specific to geometry and called postulate. So the basic facts which are taken for granted without the proof and which are basically for geometry are known as postulates. Okay, so after the postulate, let's move to the next, and the next is we discuss about postulates in next class. So after the postulates, the next is axioms. So axioms is what? the basic facts which are taken for granted, basic facts which are taken for granted without proof, which are taken for granted without proof. So axioms is also the similar as postulates, because these are also the facts which are taken for granted without the proof, but the difference is that which are used through the mathematics are called axioms. Postulates are used in basically geometry, and axioms are used in throughout the mathematics. Clear? So now I hope you understand the difference between the axioms and postulates, because in the examination it is directly asked that write the difference between axioms and postulates. So after these axioms, let's discuss few axioms of Euclid's. Some of the Euclid's axioms, not in its order, are given below. The first is things which are equal to the same thing, things which are equal to the same thing are equal to one another. For example, if A equal to B and if A is equal to C, if A equal to B and A equal to C, then we can say that B is equal to C, B is equal to C. So things which are equal to same things are equal to one another. And the next is, if equal are added to equal, the whole is also equal. Equal is added to equal, the whole is equal. For example, if A is equal to B and if we add K both sides, then A plus K is equal to B plus K. So this whole are again equal. Okay. So the next axiom is, if equal are subtracted from equals, the remainder are also equal. So same as the equal is added to equal, then the result is equal. We can say that if equal is subtracted from the equals, then the remainder is equal. So after this, the next axiom is, things which coincide with one another are equal to one another. Things which coincide with one another are equal to one another. What it means? It means we have this line AB, okay, and we have another line CD. If these two lines are coincides, if these two lines are coincide, means they overlap each other, then we can say that AB and CD is equal. AB and CD is equal. Clear? So after this axiom, let's move to the next axiom, and the next axiom is, the whole is greater than the part. The whole is greater than the part. What it means? It means, let this is the whole thing, let this is A, and the part of A is this B. So we can say that A is greater than B. The whole is greater than the part. This is very basic concept, but these are basic concept for us, but at that time this is very important. Then after this axiom, the next axiom is, things which are double of the same thing are equal to one another. Things which are double of same thing are equal. Then the next is, things which are half of the same thing are equal to one another. Okay, so these are the basic axioms of Euclid's. So after this axioms, let's move to the some note. And the first note is, what is the axiom? What is axiom? The basic facts which are taken for granted without proof are called axiom. Or we can say that basic facts which are taken for granted and which used in the whole mathematics are known as axiom. So let's take one example for axiom. Half of equal are equal. Half of equal are equal. So after the axiom, so now the next is, Statements. What is the statement? A sentence which can be judged to be true or false. A statement which can be judged to be true or false is called a statement. For example, sum of interior angles of triangle, sum of interior angle of a triangle is true statement. This is true statement. Okay, so now I hope you understand what is the statement. So this is a example of true statement. After the statement, the next is theorem. What are the theorems? Then a statement that requires a proof, is called a theorem. Stabilizing the truth of theorem is known as proving the theorem. Okay, the establishment, the truth of theorem is known as proving the theorems. There are so many theorems. We can say that this is also a theorem. Sum of interior angle of a triangle is 180. This is a theorem, and we can prove this statement also. So it is a theorem. So now we can differentiate between the axioms and theorem. Axiom is what? Axiom is a statement or fact which are taken for granted without the proof. And theorem is what? Theorem is a statement theorem is a statement that requires a proof, is called a theorem. Okay, so now after the theorem, the next is corollary. What are the corollary? A statement whose truth can be easily decided from the theorems. Okay, corollary is what? Corollary is a statement whose truth can be easily decided from the theorem, is known as corollary. Okay, so now after the corollary, the next is conjectures. What are the conjectures? In a mathematics, a conjectures is a conclusion or proposition based on incomplete information for which no proof has been found. Okay, for example, Goldbach's conjecture states that every even integer greater than 2 is a sum of two prime number. Okay, this is the statement, but we don't have a proof of this. For example, 8 is a prime number, and we can write it as 5 plus 3. 5 and 3 are the prime numbers. So here we can write a even number greater than 2 as a sum of two prime numbers. So after the conjectures, let's move to the next, and the next is some important terms related to geometry. As we discuss in the starting, that in this lecture we discuss about history of Euclid's and geometry in India, and then we discuss about the some important concept related to geometry. So some concept. So the first is point. A point is an exact location. A fine dot represent a point. Point is denoted by capital letter A, B, P, Q, R, etc. We already discussed about the point. So without the wasting time, let's move to the next, and the next is line. A line has no end point. Line has no end point. A line has no definite length. Line has no end point, and line has no definite length. Sometimes we label lines by small letter L, M, and etc. So this is the example of line, and we represent it by L. It has no length and no breadth because we can extend it in this direction and this direction also. So it has no end point and it has no definite length. So after the line, let's move to the next, and the next is line segment. The straight path between 2 points, the straight paths between 2 points A and B is called a line segment AB. If we have 2 points, these are the 2 points A and B. So a straight path between these 2 points is called, it is a line segment. This is line segment AB. Okay. Point A and B are called the endpoints of the line segment AB. A line segment has definite length. Line segment has definite length. Now, after this, next is interior point of a line segment. On the line segment, we have points. Let us assume that this is line segment PQ. And if there is a point R between P and Q, then this R is what? R is interior point of line segment AB. So a point R is called a interior point of a line segment PQ if R lies between P and Q, but R is neither P nor Q. Clear? So now I hope you all understand these points. Students, in this class we discuss about history of Euclids and geometry in India. We study that geometry is used from the ancient time in India, and first of all the use of geometry is to measure the land. And students, in this class we discuss that some definitions and some undefined term of geometry and some basic concepts of geometry. Students, you have to learn all these definitions, axioms for Euclid's geometry, because in the examination this is directly asked that define the parallel line, define this axiom. So you have to learn all this. Okay, so now we have to finish today's class here. In next class we continue this chapter, and in next class we discuss about the Euclid's postulate. So thank you and have a nice day.